Campaigners in West London say a disused sports field should be turned into a nature reserve.
Some of the capital's skylark population is under threat from plans to redevelop a green site in Southall.
The fate of a popular green space in West London will be decided this week, with hopes it could be turned into a nature reserve.
Yesterday, a petition from the Warren Farm Reserve group reached 20,000 signatures.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Navdeep Deol and I'm chair of the National Park City Foundation, London National Park City. And I've held that position for just under 2 years. It's our 5th birthday this year. In 2019, Mayor Sadiq Khan declared London a National Park City, a recognition really of everything that's being done around the city to restore nature, to make this place a greener, wilder and healthier city. And that is a recognition of the work that's being done all around the boroughs of London, not just by local authorities, but by the London Mayor's Department, by the charities that we have across London, ZSL, Kew Gardens, National Trust, there's so many, Wildlife Trust. There's so many charities that we can't mention them all, but just to recognise the amazing work that they're all doing, the amazing work that's being done by communities as well. And one of the particular focuses of the National Park City Declaration was that it was a movement of movements. It was a recognition that across London at this very moment there are thousands of community groups who are working tirelessly, quite often in their own time, at their own expense, to restore nature, and they're working in collaboration with local authorities, with other charities to do that. And it's not an easy journey for them. They're doing that quite often against the odds and with a huge number of hurdles to overcome to be able to achieve what they're looking to achieve. There are many such groups, and one of the highlights of my role is I get to see a lot of them, and I get to go to tube stations I've never heard of. I was born in London, but who's heard of Falconwood? Okay, so Zone 2, right? So I get to go to places I've never heard of, and I get to meet some amazing community groups, grassroots movements, who are working tirelessly to not just restore nature on their doorstep, but to connect people to nature, to reach out to young people, to vulnerable people, to old people, to communities that need special care, to schools, to ensure that their work is resonating not just in their local neighbourhoods but right across London. And I was very privileged earlier on this year to be invited a bit closer to home to a place I had heard of, which is Ealing, to visit the Brent River Park charity group. We did a short walk around. And I look at this map now and I realise that the area we walked around wasn't very big, that the park is actually massive. But we did a short walk around. I did return, I think it was in May, and did another walk around there. And I got to meet some of the volunteers behind the Brent River Park charity. And I got to hear their stories. I got to hear the stories of nature on their doorstep. I got to hear the stories of how they were engaging with local communities. I got to hear their stories of collaboration with other groups and with the local authority. And it was nothing but inspiring, really, to be there with them and to hear everything that they've achieved and also their vision going forward. And part of the National Park City vision and our DNA, really, is to take grassroots movements that are doing amazing work and shout about them. Because it's through shouting about them that we give them strength, we give them, we advocate for them, we show what they're doing, but we also inspire others across the city to do the same thing. We create networks of movements. And I'm very, very proud that the Brent River Park charity are one of those groups that are inspiring groups not just in West London, but all over London to protect nature and to connect people to nature from every single part of the community. So I won't say much more other than to say, please be inspired by the amazing work of the Brent River Park charity and our we've got three rangers here today who have been working closely with them over the last couple of years, and they're going to talk to you about what they've been up to and all they've achieved. Thank you very much.
The skylarks were up in force, and that really took me back to my childhood when the moors of Derbyshire used to be full of skylarks, and it was a sound I hadn't heard for a while, and it was really quite an emotional moment and a moment of freedom.
And it's just really beautiful and really empty and lovely, and so much life, which is not very common in London, sadly. But it was just amazing to sort of find all of that and to find things that I haven't seen before.
I think it would be nice to retain a bit more of the brownfield areas as well, because I do photograph insects as well sometimes. It's nice to have that mosaic of slightly different types of habitats.
I can honestly say we had no idea when we started it just how much support we would receive. We had an amazing protest, over 1,000 people showed up for that, and it's just been vast amounts of help from photographers and local people who have just come along and said, we don't want this site destroyed and developed for sport, because actually the wildlife that's here now is just so incredible, and we want to have better biodiversity in the borough, and it would be an absolute travesty to lose somewhere as precious as this site has become. Hello, we've just been talking about you. What do you think? Well, I'm pleased you're happy. Anything else you'd like to add? Would you like... I've got a treat. There you go. Thank you, sir. Take care now. Have a good day.
So we did invite the dog to come and give a talk today, but unfortunately he had another speaking engagement tonight, so you're kind of stuck with me. My name is Katie Boyles, and I am a secretary with the Brent River Park, and I was the Warren Farm Nature Reserve campaign organiser. And in this short moment of time that we have together, I'm going to share with you the 50-year history and the 50-year future of the Brent River Park. And to do that, if I can get my card holder up, we're going to look at the screen for me. We're going to go back to June the 30th in 1972. And Luke FitzHerbert, this gentleman here, and his wife Kay over here with their daughter Kitty, took a group of volunteers to set out and clean up the river. So the river was full of litter, and it was recorded as being stinky. It was a stinky river. And Luke was a keen boatsman. He was passionate about waterways. And the River Brent was in need from help from human intervention even back then. And it was a huge success. As you can see, they had a huge skip there with 2 tons of rubbish. And Kay, in the photo, took this photo and gave it to a local journalist. And she gave it to him to post as a community story of environmental cleanup. It was a really positive thing to do, and they were really proud of what they'd managed to get the community to come and get involved with. A couple of days later, Kay went and had a meeting at the Hanwell Preservation Society. Now, the Hanwell Preservation Society were part of the volunteer group here, and they themselves were a group who preserved green spaces and historical buildings from insensitive development. And Kay was expecting them to be really delighted that she'd managed to get them this bit of publicity. But when she went in, she was met with disapproval, because some of them felt she was making it political. Because it just so happened that some of the people in that photo, some of those volunteers, were from a different political group than the ones that ran the Hanwell Preservation Society. And so they got really unhappy with her of something that was actually meant to be a positive thing to do. And they asked her to leave. So Kay walked home crying, because it wasn't her intention at all. She just wanted to clean up the river. And when she got home, she was met with Luke at the door. And Luke asked her, what happened? What happened? His wife had come home crying. And when she told him, he took a moment and he said, we'll start our own charity, because the work we do is non-party political, and it would allow us to sort of manoeuvre ourselves in the political sphere. And that is how the Brent River and Canal Society was born, and that is how it then went on to form the Brent River Park. So our charity began from a campaigning action. 50 years ago, the park looked very different to how it does today. There was zero connection. All of these bits of land were fenced off separate areas. Some of it was covered in landfill. You couldn't even access it, like down here at Elthorn. There were no pathways. There was no connectivity. And Luke just saw a really obvious opportunity. He was like, well, we could create a really large linear park that followed the river. It just seemed to make so much sense. He was like, we could bring communities together where they can't even speak to each other over the fencing in these areas. He was really keen that people had access to water, especially in their cities. And he was a keen walker and cyclist himself. So he wrote his vision down for the Brent River Park. He then went and took it to the council. And the Brent River Park campaign came from some resistance from the council. There were some individual officers and councillors who supported his idea. There was one former planning officer who's now a Brent River Park trustee with us, John Templeton, and he recalls a senior officer saying, "We're not having the public telling us how to look after our park." It's like, okay. So Luke hired a minibus and he drove the councillors to each of the green spaces because they couldn't walk there like they can today, and he took all the time to do that. And he took them to the Hermitage and he fed them cake and he fed them food like we're doing with you. And he wooed them with his vision and his knowledge and his wit. He was a very charismatic person. And the Brent River Park was opened to great ceremony on the 29th of June in 1975. Over 2,000 people showed up to celebrate it. And this is the days before social media, okay? They walked 7 kilometres with the Mayor of Ealing through the park. There was food, there was drink, and they did canal river boats for the children. Many children didn't have the money or the privilege of even being able to go onto a boat at that time. And he wanted to give them that experience. And it was the 70s, so of course there was Morris dancing, you know. The Brent River Park logo is a triangle, and Luke drew it on a napkin with John Templeton in his bedroom. And that sign can be seen, the logo can be seen on signs throughout the park today. It's a simple triangle, but in many ways, to me personally, it speaks of charity, community, and council. The 3 cornerstones of what makes visions like Luke's come to life. Today, the Brent River Park is still serving as Ealing's vital floodplain. When flooded, and it does flood, it all floods, it's doing its job. There's children's play areas, there's sports areas, primarily golf. There's habitats such as woodland, ancient woodlands. There's wetlands, there's grasslands, there's wildflower meadows. And there's an abundance of wildlife within those habitats living alongside us. But in 50 years, a lot has changed. We're in a climate emergency. We're one of the most nature-depleted countries in the world. 1 in 6 species are at risk of extinction in the UK. We're in a well-being and health crisis. We're at biodiversity loss, we're suffering habitat loss, we're suffering pollution on such an epic scale. And we're living in a time of disinformation. But the one thing that will always tell you the truth, to if I include me, is nature. Nature will always be truthful with you about what's going on. Today, Ealing Council are speaking with us and other environmental and community stakeholders, locally and London-wide, about the great potential of opening a regional park. Rewilded with the health of our community and wildlife at its core. For the Brent River Park, as Ealing's largest park, this is an opportunity to build upon Luke's vision, which was never fully completed. So it would address serious challenges our planet is facing, reducing the impact for future generations who will inherit the decisions that we make together today, in the same way that we have inherited this park that Luke left us. But what could a regional park look like? I want you to think about your favourite green space. I want you to really strongly visualise it in your minds. And I want you to think about going to visit your favourite green space. You're getting up out of bed. You've checked the weather. It says it's sunny. You're going to take a raincoat. You're in the UK. I want you to think about how you're making your way there. Maybe you're walking, maybe you're cycling, maybe you're taking the bus. What can you see? Really visualize it. Are you seeing trees? Are you seeing buildings? Are you seeing houses? Are you walking along paving? And then I want you to think about that feeling you get when you reach your favourite green space and how it makes you feel. The joy it brings you. What are you looking for in that space? I've had an egg sandwich for breakfast. I'm walking up here to this side of the park as one of my new favourite places. I'm going to Pear Tree Park. It's a newly named park. It was part of a golf course originally, and it's being rewilded currently. There's flowers popping up. It's pretty amazing how quick it comes up. After many a deep conversation I've had with our chair, Phil Bellman, and in following Luke FitzHerbert's footsteps, I'm going to allow myself to think big, and I'm going to play a game of what if, and I want you to join me with this game. This is how we imagine ourselves as part of a regional park. I'm sitting here, feeling a bit funny, haven't eaten the egg sandwich, not going to lie. What if we were to expand the Brent River Park, make it bigger? We could take in places like Tenterlow, Glade Lane, Southall Park, and all the other sort of green spaces that are pretty much connected to us as it is, but not officially part of the Brent River Park yet. Does that start to feel like a bigger sort of regional park feeling? And then what if we connect the Brent River Park under the regional park to include Horsenden Hill, which is up here, and Grove Farm up here? Grove Farm is a local nature reserve. Horsenden Hill is about to be so. You've got Paradise Fields over here with the beavers. What if we connect to make this park even bigger? Does that start to feel like the sort of sense of what a regional park is? And what if we start thinking about all the other green spaces and parks in Ealing and connecting with them? All out here, all these outside green spaces, having signage that links them to the Brent River Park, creating a kind of green web, so there is a connection that joins this massive lung of London here. That would encourage me to walk a bit further than up there with my egg sandwich. Walking routes and connectivity with nature. And then what if we were to create wildlife corridors between all the parks out here over in Ealing? And how would that work? And what if we planted trees and had wildlife sort of corridors for pollinators with wildflowers? And we really put our efforts and time into doing that, properly creating those corridors and connecting those parks that are all sort of isolated out here, so that people stop thinking about green spaces being islands and little pockets in an urban sprawl, and they start thinking about it as being a connected, living, breathing green space. Does that start to feel like more of a regional park? And what if we create new parks, absolutely new parks, spaces with currently no clear identity whatsoever? Spaces where we're building flats and buildings and ensuring that they restore 10% back to green space. And what if we team up with neighbouring boroughs? Why don't we climb over those fences, go and shake hands with them? Longwood down here and Warren Farm could be connected to Osterley if we can, talk to Hounslow. Let's go even bigger. Let's expand it out. Let's connect. Nature doesn't have any sense of boundaries. They're all man-made. And when nature faces blocks, it's because we've put them there. And then what if that approach made the whole of London think differently about how we connect green spaces? Wouldn't that be amazing to start something that literally wild? A regional park does have the potential to connect and benefit nature, and therefore us, on a scale that will tackle some of the climate crisis issues that we're facing. Publicly owned land, managed in a publicly accountable way, empowering and educating communities. I've moved on to a chocolate bar now because this was a lot, thinking about this. And at the Brent River Park, we want to be restoring and rewilding everything that we do. And we have ambitions in that way. We're looking for collaboration and funding opportunities and working with like-minded people like everyone in this room.
Should we be brave and continue to think big? Luke thought big, and look what he left us. What about fish and eel passes in our rivers? Sean has proven that beavers can work through the Ealing Wildlife Group. It can be done. Let's have beavers, water voles. We're interested in wetland habitat creation, rubbish traps to trap that litter. Unlike when they had to go and pull it out using big hooks, let's trap it before it goes out into the Thames and out into the ocean. We can do that. Why aren't we already doing that? I mean, you know, it would be amazing. It would be amazing to be able to do that. Stop it before it goes and causes any more harm than it's already doing. What if we help our bat friends under the viaducts? We had brown long-eared bats recorded there once. They haven't been seen for years. Let's open pathways, let's build bridges that complete Luke's vision, especially on this side of the park, to open pathways so that community from this side have better access and ensure it's disabled access and improved travel routes. We would love to see more active travel, cycle routes and disability access. We would love a council ecologist and more park rangers to help with this park, but also as a regional park on a bigger scale, it will need that level of support to ensure it works. There's a block here called the Stables, blah, 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 around here, Bunny Park, right here. It's a Grade 2 listed building. It's closed, it's abandoned, it's falling apart a little bit. No one's been in there for years. Let's bring it back. Why can't we bring it back? Let's do it. It would be a base for community groups and park rangers. There could be a restaurant and cafe, an exhibition space, a cultural centre, and it's right next door to Hanwell Zoo. It's in the heart of the Brent River Park. We recently launched a rewilding hub for Warren Farm Nature Reserve concept. It's a specialist centre to educate on climate, rewilding, recycling, species recording, with potential changing rooms for neighbouring sports pitches. Because the truth is, people can't care about what they don't know about. And all of the above, and I'm looking at a few particular people in here, Margaret Bender, to consult experts and local knowledge for ecological and habitat surveys to be undertaken to ensure we don't, with all good intentions, accidentally destroy vital habitats and species that may be holding on here by a thread. It's just that nobody's looked, so we haven't been able to give them a voice yet. There's no such thing as one species going extinct. When one species goes extinct, it has a knock-on effect for other species. We owe them to at least look, don't we? And properly record it. On the 7th of January in 2007, Luke and Kay were struck by a speeding car. Tragically, Luke, aged 69, lost his life that day, and Kay was left with life-changing injuries. Luke's impact on the charity sector and his Brent River Park vision tells the story of a man well regarded, respected and loved. He had 2 obituaries in The Guardian. In one, Peter J. described Luke FitzHerbert as having a conviction that success would come from working at the earthiest of grassroots. And in Third Sector magazine it was quoted, "He made unpalatable truths slip down the throats of the powerful with a dose of wit, and he remained urbane and kind, without ever letting go of his vision that the greater good can be achieved, provided it clearly identified and was pursued tenaciously." On the 29th of June next year, we're going to be celebrating 50 years since our park was inaugurated, with the Morris dancers. Food. We'll bring them back, of course. And sadly, Luke isn't here to see that. But we're going to be celebrating, and you don't know it yet, but you're all going to be celebrating with us. In 50 years' time, what will our efforts look like? What stories will we leave behind? And will we have done our children and wildlife justice when we had the chance? It won't, ironically, be a walk in the park, of course. It's a lot. And it's going to take a lot of commitment and a lot of negotiation and a lot of coming together to make it work. But the very existence of the Brent River Park is living proof that it is a path worth walking. Thank you.
And with that, I would like to introduce somebody who, as they classically say, needs no introduction. I would like to introduce you to Kabir Kaul, who has been an amazing, amazing advocate for us. He is a conservationist, he is a wildlife writer, he is a special advisor for the Brent River Park. He was a key, absolute key person in helping with the Warren Farm Nature Reserve campaign to get it to the point where we are today, working in totally bond with the council. It's amazing, and so many other groups. Kabir.
Thank you so much, Katie. And just like the vision to establish the Brent River Park about 50 years ago, the journey that we've all been on to establish Warren Farm as a local nature reserve was born out of the community's love of nature. I'm Kabir Kaul. I'm a conservationist, a campaigner, and the special advisor to the Brent River Park. It gives me great pleasure to say that after 4 years of debate and discussion, Warren Farm, just in the south of the Brent River Park, is now a local nature reserve. But why did we want that local nature reserve designation in the first place? Well, I'm going to remind you why Warren Farm is such a valuable asset in London's mosaic of habitats, the criticality of our designation, and the next steps we will collectively take to secure the future of the site. But firstly, let's give you an idea of where we're located. So this is Warren Farm in West London, in the south of the Brent River Park, as Katie's just mentioned. And it's surrounded by various different habitats. Warren Farm itself has acid grassland, very rare in London, neutral grassland and brownfield site, again very rare for any sort of wildlife site in London. It's also surrounded by a number of other different habitats. To the west there's the Imperial College Fields, horse stables. To the southeast there's the Earl of Jersey's field, which we have very exciting plans for. Looking forward to sharing a bit about that with you a little bit later. And to the south of that there's Longwood, ancient woodland, quite rare in Ealing. To the north there are 4 meadows: Blackberry Corner, Jubilee Meadow, Trumpers Field and Fox Meadow, each of which are their own sites of importance for nature conservation sinks. Now, Warren Farm hasn't always been like this. About 100 years ago it was a working farm, hence the name, before being transferred to the Inner London Education Authority in the 80s, who converted it into sports pitches. It had been that way for quite some time, and Ealing Council owned it a few years later, until it was abandoned and left to rewild itself for 14 years, resulting in the wonderful mix of habitats we have today. And this unique mix of habitats provides the perfect conditions for all sorts of weird and wonderful wildlife to thrive at Warren Farm. No matter the time of year you visit, you'll always see birds, bees, butterflies, bats, bindweed, or something else at Warren Farm. But of course, it's the skylark that is the most famous species at the site. We all love the skylark at Warren Farm. Personally speaking, I first visited Warren Farm during the pandemic. It was a very difficult time for all of us. And just hearing the beautiful, bubbly, scratchy, whirring song of the skylark was absolutely magical. The way it was flying up into the air, becoming this little dot in the sky and then plunging back down to earth into the long grass. It was fantastic. And there's no shortage of skylarks. Over a quarter of London's skylarks call Warren Farm home. That's for a number of different reasons. Firstly, they love the long grass. It's a safe space for them to feed and breed. Warren Farm has a lot of long grass. It's 61 acres of grassland, so they absolutely love it. But also there are very few predators around to hunt them. There are very few perches that they can sit on, like a bird of prey, for instance. There are very few trees or fence posts for it to sit on, scan the field and try and find a tasty skylark for lunch or dinner. Now, there's no shortage of other animals and plants as well. There's the copse bindweed, a rare species of plant. Warren Farm is the only place in Middlesex where you can find it. And there's a very cute family of little owls, which you'd seen in Michael's film, which nest in the duck oak, an ancient oak by the River Brent. But even in the brownfield site, nature has reclaimed territory. There are mining bees that burrow in the sand. There are slow worms, legless lizards that bask on the concrete in the spring and the summer. There's also a rare species of spider called the Thanatus striatus. Can everyone say Thanatus striatus? Fantastic. I know it's not something you usually do after work, but I appreciate it. This incredible biodiversity is our main motivation for protecting Warren Farm. And it forms part of a vital corridor of ecosystems, the Brent River Park, stretching from the A40 in the north and stopping short of the River Thames in the south. That's 400 hectares in total. It's a conduit for both wildlife and people, and in a climate crisis it plays an incredibly crucial role in reducing air pollution and reducing flood risk and improving and reducing urban heat as well. But of course, this entire park and Warren Farm itself also has an immense value to local people. They can access it via beautiful and scenic country walks throughout the park. And noticing, appreciating and embracing the natural world around them can encourage people to get outside in nature more often and improve their physical and mental health. And Chantal will be telling you a little bit more about that later. In all of these ways, Warren Farm is a key component of the Brent River Park and will continue to play all of these key roles as part of the wider Ealing Regional Park, which Katie explained earlier. And in a London-wide context, the acid grassland at Warren Farm has been recognised by the Greater London Authority as a biodiversity action plan habitat, and that's brilliant news. In addition, the Greater London Authority is also doing some fantastic work in a policy context with local nature recovery strategies, which are aiming to enhance and recover and restore nature right across the capital. Moreover, all sites surrounding Warren Farm are sites of importance for nature conservation. A bit of a mouthful, I know, but it essentially means they are wildlife sites which are given some consideration in local planning decisions and land management decisions. And we're very pleased that Warren Farm will become a SYNC in the upcoming Council SYNC review, so that's brilliant news, in addition to the local nature reserve designation. In addition, each of these 4 meadows, go over here, each of these 4 meadows will become local nature reserves in their own right, offering another layer of protection to the wildlife of the Brent River Park, and I thank Ealing Council for that as well. So why is designating Warren Farm so critical? In the short term, nature is protected immediately. No development, no fragmentation to habitats, less disturbance to wildlife. Only 2% of Britain's wildflower meadows remain. But this designation demonstrates our collective commitment to Southall's natural heritage. Because we used our voice, the skylarks can continue to have theirs. The designation is the most viable solution to safeguarding the future of this public green space. Not only is it a gateway to new opportunities for the site, but it allows us all to move forward in stitching back together the green and blue patchwork of the Brent River Park. And in time, we are hopeful that a future Warren Farm local nature reserve will become a vital hub for environmental education in West London. Through ID courses, nature walks, and a small rewilding centre as well, we'll be encouraging more residents to spend quality time in their local wildlife sites. Ultimately, we aim to cultivate a new generation of conservationists, equipping young people with the knowledge and the skills that they need to restore nature right across the Brent River Park and beyond. Now, it hasn't been an easy journey to get to this point. We all know that. But because we have all come together to collectively designate Warren Farm as a local nature reserve, we have all found solutions in the best interests of both community and conservation in Southall. And I want to thank all of you here in the room today, as well as our supporters locally and across the country, for being the backbone of this journey that we've been on for so long, and for your unwavering dedication, commitment and support, and also your incredible knowledge too. I want to take some time to thank a few people who have been on this journey with us for the last 4 or 5 years. It's going to take a little bit of time, but it's important. The Brent River Park trustees and supporters, the Warren Farm Nature Reserve team, Dr. Sean McCormack and Ealing Wildlife Group, Phil Bellman, London National Park City, Imperial College, Dr. Mark A. Spencer and Peter Edwards, Chris Packham, Megan McCubbin, Yolo Williams, Liz Bonin, Jenny Jones, John Randall, Hina Bakari, Caroline Pigeon, Zach Polanski, London Wildlife Trust and CPRE London. Importantly, I'd also like to thank Ealing Council, in particular the leader of the council, our new MP for Southall, and the leader of the opposition. After much lively debate and discussion, a consensus has been reached that protects all of Warren Farm. And to the councillors here this evening, thank you so much for being here. It really means a lot. Now, looking to the future, we're hoping to launch many, many more projects in Warren Farm and across the Brent River Park. And we want to start with not only plans to cleaning up the River Brent, which Ben will tell you a little bit more about that. Not just that, but also we're very excited about a rare opportunity to expand ancient woodland. So there's the Earl of Jersey's field in the south, and beneath that is Longwood. Longwood is ancient woodland, something very rare in Ealing. And we're hoping in time to expand that ancient woodland upwards into the Earl of Jersey's field, sourcing saplings locally and making that an even bigger woodland. Not only that, but we also hope to maintain part of the Earl of Jersey's field as a meadow, so we can increase that very important skylark territory. A collaborative effort is required to realise this vision. Imagine stepping away from Warren Farm, walking into a beautiful, magical, ancient woodland filled with birdsong and with bluebells all around your feet in the spring. Imagine how many more people we could teach to embrace the natural world around them. This vision is going to take a lot of time to be realised, but it's important that the work begins as soon as possible in order that we can sow the seeds. This is only the beginning of our work, but let's celebrate our efforts today. A win for both people and nature in Southall. Let this be the foundation for future nature recovery projects right across the Brent River Park. A testament to what can be achieved when community, council and conservation coalesce. Thank you very much. I'm now going to hand over to Chantal, who's going to explain a little bit more about how the community is getting involved in Warren Farm.
I'm Chantal. I'm a London National Park City Ranger and have become involved in Warren Farm and Brent River Park. And unlike these amazing people who work so hard in the space, I am there for the fun. That's my involvement. So I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey through time and space. So we'll go back to March 2019. I'm in Eryri National Park, North Wales, where I spend a month solo hiking. I'm accompanied by my OS maps, my compass, a backpack filled with layers, waterproof, naturally, in Wales, and snacks, naturally, knowing Katie. And although I spent most of my adult life hiking, this was the first time I'd done it fully solo. So obviously I needed to make sure that I didn't get lost. So I had to pay careful attention to my surroundings, not only where I had come from, obviously where I was, but more importantly where I was going. And so I was constantly having to look around at the landscape and my surroundings. And after several days, I realised that I felt really quite differently about being outdoors. I noticed the bark on trees, how moss grew on one side of a structure, just the delicious colours that you would see around you constantly, the sounds of birds and wind through the trees. And it just made me feel really differently. And after sort of my whole life of spending a lot of time outdoors, I felt this real sense of connection to nature for the first time. So here we are in central London talking about London National Park City and Brent River Park. So what's Wales got to do with that? So since that time, there's been a series of events that have connected me from there to here. So upon my return home in April back to London, I really felt like I wanted to share that experience and get as many people as possible to feel that connection to nature. So when I found out about London National Park City later that year and their desire to make London greener, wilder and healthier, I jumped at the opportunity to become a ranger. In 2020, I came across an amazing Facebook group, a community group run by the amazing Dr. Sean McCormack. Don't look away. Amazing. And such a great community group. And just seeing daily nature posts by its very active members who were, it's such an amazing group. So then we go to 2022. And I just think, gosh, I go out all the time and never see these amazing species that I see posted online. So I very innocently asked the group, the very friendly group, if they would mind, if anyone would mind me accompanying them on their explorations around the borough. And that's what led me to Warren Farm Nature Reserve, where I met the amazing Katie and we bonded over snacks and we knew that we'd be friends for life at that point. Brent River Park is just so contrary to what we think of as a space in like an urban jungle. And for nature, what's so important is this patchwork of habitats connected via nature corridors, because that's critical for nature to thrive, to be able to find a mate, to be able to hunt for food, to be able to find shelter. To have these different habitats is really critical. And as we all know, humans need variety in habitats too to be able to thrive. We all live in London, a very busy city. We have busy, active lives. And we turn on the TV and we see devastation across the world. And we can feel very isolated in our own thoughts and concerns. So having these kind of free and accessible spaces to be able to get out, to be able to breathe, connect with nature, run, jog, disconnect from technology, find some quiet space is absolutely critical for our mental health and physical well-being. So we have this amazing space, so how do we connect people to it? Well, I concur with what Socrates once said. The unexamined life is not worth living. And as Katie alluded to, we don't protect something if we don't understand it. So for me, learning occurs obviously in a variety of ways, and TV and books are amazing in a way of connecting thousands of people in one go, or helping people to learn in one go. But for me, actually getting outside and experiencing nature in the elements, the unpredictability of nature, not knowing what the weather will be like, what we might come across and see. All of these things for me helps to sort of ingrain these experiences in our brain and learn differently. So since June 2022, that first day that I happened upon Warren Farm, we've held walks across all seasons, and thanks to our amazing volunteers of experts, amateurs, and me, we've had walks where we've been serenaded by the amazing skylarks that we've heard so much about. We've walked in the ancient woodlands, discovering amethyst deceivers and puffballs. We've been on guided night walks, where to my companion's complete surprise, I witnessed my very first barn owl sighting. Recently, we've paired up with the Butterfly Trust and our amazing Neil Anderson, who unfortunately isn't here this evening, on the first day of the Great Butterfly Count. What's also amazing about getting people outdoors together is for everyone to be able to experience things and see our environment in a different way. So on one of our walks, armed with an iPad filled with photos, we walked around the floodplains on a very, very warm, dry Maybank holiday. But the photos demonstrated how, when at times of floods, the water would be up to our knees. And I think these kind of experiences are really important because it helps us to imagine what space is like and how it can interact for nature as well. And we talked about how important these wetlands are for nature, as well as the surrounding neighbourhoods, because it acts as really vital flood defences. We've been really fortunate to have our local young naturalists, Rowan and Daniel, who are sitting at the back there, who started out as participants coming on most of our walks, I think, and then have subsequently led walks. I think it was like moth trapping you've done, and as well as taking out some of the VIPs to show them around the area. And whilst we make our events fun and engaging, we don't shy away from the realities of the fact that we're living in a climate crisis, the fact that we do talk about the critically endangered species. On one of our walks, we actively took a detour over an outlet that went straight into the River Brent, which was pumping raw sewage directly into it. And so, like, all of the people that came on that walk literally were smelling what was going into the River Brent. And I think, you know, it obviously is the best way of highlighting the sort of water crisis that we're currently going through, which Ben will talk to us more about later. Brent River Park is surrounded by housing, and this rich diversity of people, this abundance, like the demography of different ages and backgrounds and knowledge, is such a wonderful thing to have. And having this space throughout for people to then be able to come together and meet in these kind of groups is just such a rich reward. So in terms of learning and this sort of diversity of people, we're also very aware that people interact and learn differently. And so about a year ago, we started to do, again, thanks to our amazing volunteers, we've had a different kind of events that have been running. So Viv has run a nature writing course, and we've had nature drawing, nature journaling, and photography as well. And that brings a whole different energy to the people that are participating, as well as sort of how they interact with the space. So the biggest threat to Earth is the belief that someone else will save it. So for me, the power of community lies in us as individuals, be it participating, organising, engaging. I'm amazed for the fact that a very simple post on an amazing community Facebook group has led to something beyond our wildest imagination. So as I conclude, it's easy to paint humans as a problem, and of course we know we are, but we are such a huge part of the solution as well. So via collective efforts, we can come together and continue to nurture and encourage nature and these amazing spaces. So the Brent River Park is an amazing historical and future example of just that. And with that, I'm going to pass the baton over to Ben, who's going to delve deeper into the positive changes that have been happening and add the bluer to London National Park City's desire to make London greener, healthier and wilder. Thank you.
What is the difference between a river and a drain? The Brent provides a habitat for scurrying invertebrates, shimmering fish, elusive eels, stately herons, regal egrets, and now even a brood of beavers. It winds sinuously between ancient trees, glistening in the sunlight, and after heavy rain becomes an inspiringly wild and stirring torrent. The Brent is the centrepiece of the Brent River Park and of the proposed regional park, and is the spine and central nervous system by which these organs of nature and of human well-being are connected. But like all rivers, it is also, well, a drain. It is the lowest point on the map wherever it runs. It is the place where gravity takes the things that people drop, flush, and shed. It is at times choked with filth and sludge and sewage fungus. My group, Curb, Clean Up the River Brent, working closely with others such as Ealing's Lager Can, has spent much of the last 3 years removing rubbish from the Brent. 500 car tyres, 100 bicycles, up to 100 tonnes, we think, of discarded, fly-tipped and jettisoned waste. We've brought together groups of local volunteers, reaching up into the catchment through the borough of Brent and up into Barnet and Harrow and down into Hounslow. And we've made a big difference. But the rubbish keeps coming. We've designed and built our own EA-funded Brent monitoring network, a unique fleet of devices gathering water quality data to produce graphs showing sewage, food waste or detergent contamination. Combined with chemical testing using equipment provided by Thames 21 and a programme we're developing with Imperial College to examine road runoff, we're aiming for a deeper understanding of what is in the river and what can be done to improve it. But we alone are not capable of taking the action needed to end the trail of pollution. We've been working with local MPs, Thames Water, the EA, Thames 21, Ealing and other boroughs to address the ongoing pollution from misconnections and sewerage overflows, bringing attention to a particularly problematic outfall on the grounds of Ealing Golf Club, which Thames Water are now addressing. There are plenty of others which are going to need similar treatment. We know where they are, and we're getting closer to understanding what is coming out of them, contaminating our river, and we're not going to stop reporting them and demanding improvements until the pollution stops. But we need the commitment of everyone involved to bring a lasting improvement. We have a very happy relationship with Ealing's park rangers, helping them remove dangerous giant hogweed from the riverbanks and starting to establish filtering and stabilising reeds and purple loosestrife where invasive Himalayan balsam has taken hold. And we're grateful for Ealing's financial support of this planting programme. But until we have buy-in from the whole catchment, the invasives will continue to return each year, the work of Ealing's rangers never complete. The experience I've had with Curb, which started with an appalling pollution incident originating from an area I'd never visited before, has been one of reaching out and connecting with other communities on our river, forming a human catchment of alliances from Barnet to Brentford, a community we were able to celebrate with a 27-mile sponsored walk this summer. Truly, the Brent now has a family, a collective guardianship, a group of people with many differences, but one central thing in common, an overwhelming and determined desire to protect this river. We hope that in the next few years, the Ealing beavers, introduced thanks to the incredible efforts and tenacity of Citizen Zoo and the Ealing Wildlife Group, and again with the support of the Borough of Ealing, will be joined by a new population of water voles, and that these shy but charming creatures will be able to take advantage of habitat enhanced specifically with them in mind in a series of restored wetlands. The proposed regional park offers fantastic opportunities for the River Brent in Ealing to recognise the essential role the river plays in our ecosystem. But it's absolutely vital that every opportunity is taken to make sure that at the heart of our wonderful natural asset is a clean and life-filled watercourse. We cannot have a groundbreaking, vital series of green spaces set about something that is little better than a drain. So what needs to be done? Well, for starters, London needs a return scheme. Aluminium cans, glass and plastic bottles all have value. A payment system would take these items out of the environment. Why can't London lead the way on this? There's been far too much delay on this already. What are we waiting for? More complicated, but actually much more important for the health of the river, we need to step up the programme of improving our sewerage system. The Brent is plagued by hundreds and hundreds of misconnections, faults in plumbing, which mean toilet waste is flushed directly into the river. It's a slow assassination, a steady drip poisoning of the entire catchment. We need better collaboration between Thames Water and the councils along the Brent to sort this problem out. We're calling for recognition of the importance of clean water in nature and for actions taken, not just words spoken, although in some cases we don't even get words. Thames Water need to make sure they maintain and steadily upgrade their network. We need ambitious and enforceable targets to eliminate blockages and overflows. Not enough is currently being done. We have a sense sometimes that success in one area implies failure in another. But it must also be said that the general public has a big role to play here too, in what we flush. The thousands of wet wipes we've collected along the Brent are not only there because of the water company, and we all need to be honest about this. The traffic which ploughs around the North Circular, scattering the tarmac with toxic tyre rubber, engine oil and brake dust, which is then flushed into the nearby river, is going to have to pay for the measures needed to prevent these fish-killing chemicals from entering the watercourse. This is sadly not a problem which is going to be solved by EVs, which are likely, because of their power and weight, to make things worse. The food producers, who have a habit of dumping their fatty food sludge straight into the river, must be prosecuted for their well-documented actions. In short, the challenges are legion, but they're not challenges but they're challenges which don't only apply to the Brent, and in which the Brent can be used as a test bed. By understanding and addressing the issues we face here, we can create a model which others can learn from and follow. At the heart of the problems we face is this critical question: how are humans to live in harmony with the natural world of which we are a part and which sustains us? We need to find answers to that question. In the miles of concrete-lined channel our river has been forced into, there is an opportunity, we believe, to reintroduce greenery, filtering reeds and flowering plants to allow the build-up of natural gravels, the aeration of tired and deoxygenated water, the creation of invertebrate and fish habitat, and areas for the easy removal of rubbish, which will otherwise deface our park. We have a proposal to achieve this, which we call the WIA, the Water Improvement Area, and we're seeking support to get this project moving forward. We want to collaborate with all stakeholders, and we believe the Mayor and the GLA have a huge role to play here in encouraging holistic catchment-wide thinking, bringing us out of our bunkers and into a wider engagement with nature and with each other. Borough boundaries are the bane of river health. Whether dealing with flood resilience, invasives or pollution, we need catchment thinking, not a borough-centred mentality. We're calling for a proper London-wide, practical, funded river policy which takes specific steps towards the Mayor's laudable and ambitious objective of having clean rivers by 2034. A couple of weeks ago, I was down by the river in Hanwell, opposite a gaping 2-metre diameter pipe, sending a constant foul-smelling stream of indeterminate liquid straight into the river. Beneath trees whose branches were shrouded in plastic waste, I launched our latest monitoring device, the fruit of 2 years testing with mixed feelings. The box I was replacing had been vandalised. The outfall had been running in the same way for years. The water was listless and grey. The challenge seemed overwhelming. Perhaps we'd be better off just walking away and letting human nature take its course. Isn't the Brent just one of those parts of the ecosystem that is now effectively gone, best forgotten, allowed to trickle off and die in peace? I stood for a moment, lost in thought. What is wrong with me? Why am I wasting my time here? And then something caught my eye. Quick as a flash, darting into vision from my left and alighting on a branch in front of me in brilliant orange and blue, appeared a kingfisher. For a moment, our eyes met across the water. The branch bobbed, and quick as she came, she was gone. But I knew in that moment I had my answer. I hope that you can all join us in this effort to treat the Brent with the respect she deserves, so that there can be no doubt that this is a place of solace, a place of restoration, and a fitting centrepiece to Ealing's wildest and most beautiful areas. A drain at times maybe, but also, and much more importantly, a river. I'm going to hand you back to Katie.
Don't worry, I'm not going to talk as long as the first talk was. This is just very quickly to say, it's really incredible to think about how 50 years ago, Kay and Luke were literally pulling litter out of the river that eventually turned into this. And now here we are today, Ben and Kerb are pulling litter out of the river. And who knows what amazing things that could produce on a scale like they did 50 years ago. What I would love to see, and what I would love to invite you, is to all come and keep in touch. There's contact details on the wall, you can take photos. Come and walk with us. We would love to walk through the Brent River Park with you, to come and see it for yourselves. It would just be absolutely incredible to do that. And we're really keen to hear what sort of things you've got going on, what interests you have, what projects you're into, and what collaborations we can find. It's exciting. The next few years are going to be really exciting and interesting for this magical green and blue space. We'd love to go on that journey with you. So I suggest we grab a drink, as Chantal says, snacks all the way, the sandwiches and things over there, and let's continue that conversation. And thank you so much for coming and joining us tonight. It really does mean a lot to us. So thank you so much.